Art Schulman is the attorney, right? Schulman. Phonetically? That's what I'm going with. All right.
Good evening. Can I please have a motion to call the meeting of the Connecticut Board of Education to order?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence in honor of our servicemen and women. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the district clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Napolitano-Furno.
Present.
Mrs. Iannatelli.
Present.
Mrs. DiLorenzo.
Present.
Dr. Centermore.
Present.
Mrs. Mallon.
Present.
Mr. Murphy.
Present.
Mr. Coley-Hepar.
I am here.
Mrs. Poppy.
Present.
And Mr. Hauser.
Present.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have Ms. Poppy give a brief presentation on the Envision's math curriculum.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for providing the opportunity for me to speak with you a little more deeply this evening concerning the Envision Math program for our students in grades K through 5. I have a brief presentation tonight, and I will follow that with an opportunity for additional questions from the board. Essentially, our process, our search, began in the spring of 2022. At that time, we had an elementary literacy and mathematics committee at the primary level and the intermediate level identify the need to take a look at our existing mathematics program, which we knew was sunsetting at the conclusion of the 2022-2023 school year, and evaluate it and take a look and consider our next steps as a district for elementary mathematics instruction. That conversation on both committees at the elementary level yielded the desire for the investigation of a new approach to mathematics instruction. They considered the program that we were using, and in addition, 4 other programs that are used widely by districts across Long Island. And from that 5 kind of unit exploration, we narrowed the field of consideration down to 2 programs. A pilot was born at the conclusion of June 2022. The committees decided to move forward in terms of piloting the Envision Mathematics program, which is the one that we're really speaking about this evening, as well as iReady Mathematics, both in all of our K through 5 classrooms. So why shift away from Math in Focus? That's sort of the first question that I'd like to address here. Math in Focus was onboarded in Connecticut in 2016. And essentially that year we did a K through 5 lift of the program and the curriculum in all of our elementary classrooms. Shortly after we started working with the program, we noticed some concerns about the content and the pace and the, for lack of a better term, the ordering of the actual curriculum. It seems that the Math in Focus curriculum that we adopted presented mathematical topics and concepts in ways that we were unaccustomed to. For instance, I'll take a second grade classroom. Those teachers and students were shortly kind of met with certain challenge concepts that measured students' thinking at a third grade level. These particular challenge concepts were interspersed throughout the instructional units and presented some confusion for our students and for our teachers. These were presented in terms of novel questions that students were prompted to answer. And pretty quickly, our teachers started to verbalize the concerns that they were having with this particular program and these particular concepts and how they were interspersed throughout the curriculum. Teachers voiced, now fast forwarding to 2022, teachers voiced the need for a spiral curriculum that addresses topics and concepts that are aligned to the New York State Learning Standards for mathematics in grades K through 5. And that's the ordering that we were used to as a district. We found that as a result, it became very difficult for our teachers and our students to enact and to achieve mathematical fluency because the Math in Focus program is not aligned to our grade level standards, and those are reflected in the New York State grade level standards. And so that struggle kind of persisted and essentially pushed the district to consider a realignment of Math in Focus to meet our students' needs. We accomplished that over the course of 2 years with the help of an outside consultant who the district hired to work with our teachers to reorder the units, to reconsider resources that may provide the appropriate supports within Math in Focus to go ahead and provide our students with a more fluid experience in mathematics that is connected to the standards. But as a result, we found that we required to supplement materials to reach all students in the classroom. So particularly our students who struggled mathematically, we found that they weren't being supported adequately through the Math in Focus curriculum, and we had to reach out to discover other curricular resources to kind of help bridge those gaps in instruction and help bridge those gaps for those students and their learning needs. We accomplished this through a number of different ways. We used the state resources that are provided on the website, which is some of the material base that we were using prior to Math in Focus. We subscribed to some online platforms to provide different adapted pathways for students, especially our primary level students. And we essentially established a strong collection of resources that helped our teachers deliver mathematics instruction in a way that benefited our students, aligned with the standards, and promoted their movement through the grade levels. We've reached that place after a couple of years of investment of time and effort to get there. And that was one of the major considerations that the committee would put forward in terms of seeking out a new mathematical program and approach that kind of meets the needs that Math in Focus did not previously for us. The district uses a universal screener in the MWEA for all of our students, K through 8, in ELA and mathematics. And so, aside from the anecdotal pieces in the classroom, from the historical perspective of what we did as a district in order to customize the curriculum to meet our students' needs, we did have an opportunity to take a look at where our students' growth landed district-wide for the last 3 years. So the links in this presentation, and Jesse, I don't know if you can actively access them, show a story of how our students performed. Maybe not. That's okay. Show how our students performed compared to nationally normed standards. And what we were able to ascertain, and I'm coming back to this slide, what we were able to ascertain in short is that those particular school years placed our students below national norm growth levels for mathematics instruction. Below or just nearing achievement of. And so not only anecdotally and qualitatively then did we have the evidence of the reasoning in terms of why we needed to move forward with a new approach, we also have the empirical data to support the need for our students. We moved into the pilot period and decided as a district to engender a pilot from September through June. So it was across the entire school year last year. 33 teachers participated in 28 classrooms, including our general special education populations, our ENL students. We had 14 teachers pilot the Envision program and 19 pilot the iReady program. These teachers received in-person and virtual professional support in their delivery of both programs. So they both had the opportunity to interact with the companies themselves and professional developers who helped support their work as they were lifting these programs off the ground in their classrooms. Mid-year, the piloting teachers came together in order to provide feedback associated with their groups, and they gave some peer-to-peer presentations in terms of how the pilots were going in their classrooms. The presentations were delivered actually in this room, and the teachers also had an opportunity to hear from both companies in terms of the professional support models that they offered and the types of materials that they offered. The teachers had an opportunity to meet together and talk about experiences in kind with both mathematical programs thus far across the school year. At the conclusion of that particular day, the teachers were feeling confident about their feelings regarding their experiences in their classrooms, and a vote was conducted, and Envision was the actual winner of that vote. The teachers preferred predominantly this particular program. I believe it was 25 teachers who preferred Envision, 6 who preferred iReady. The Envision teachers actually turned the iReady teachers over to their side of the table, so to speak, based upon their experiences. Feedback forms were collected, and data was collected in terms of that experience as well. Our teachers continued with their mathematical pilots to finish out the school year. That was done purposely to have a consistent experience for our students in the classroom. We didn't want any of these piloting teachers to sort of switch gears mid-year. But the second half of the year afforded us an opportunity to look more closely at Envision Mathematics and what the component features of this product are. And they are featured on this slide. So essentially, Envision Mathematics has a number of different facets and aspects that we would like to engage for all of our K-5 classrooms. We would like to use and purchase their universal screener. It's called the MSDA Plus Growth. And that's something that we would be able to use the data that's gained from that particular screener and put it directly into the SuccessMaker adaptive pathway for our students' instruction and for their independent practice of mathematics. There are a number of family resources that are readily available through the Envision Mathematics website. And we're also looking at the opportunity to look at another diagnostic and intervention system called the MDIS. All of this is encompassed in the second portion of this proposal for the board's consideration, which is a contract through SAVIS and Envision Mathematics to engage in the Partnership Plus program. This would be the professional development model that the district purchases for 12 months. It's for a single school year. And this would allow the service of a single professional developer to be rendered within the district across the school year. So that individual would essentially push into our classrooms to provide support for teachers and students. They would be able to give whole group professional development sessions as well as individualized professional development sessions and work with our mathematics specialists as well. The professional developer is also available to work with Mrs. Berger to talk about some of the community outreach that Mrs. Berger would like to implement through Partnership Plus with Envision Mathematics so that the conversation about mathematics comes home with frequency and clarity to the greatest extent possible. And so that is the other side of this contract. The Partnership Plus program, our proposal is to sponsor that through the grant, through our ARC grant, that's the American Rescue Plan, which is a COVID relief grant. This is, again, a one-year expenditure, and so it is within the confines of the grant spending period, and we see it as a positive investment of those monies. Just to give you some perspective, that grant total is approximately $1.6 million, and the Partnership Plus program would then represent an expenditure of 14.8% of the grant, but it would touch every student in our district K through 5. Sorry for backwards. And so just a little bit more about that professional development model. Again, it's instructional coaching, but it's not delivered in a vacuum, and I think that's very important to highlight. So we are looking to provide support for our teachers, but it's not occurring just directly from the company to the district. So we do have a liaison in Mrs. Berger, a gatekeeper, if you will, who is performing quality control with this partnership and who is arranging for these professional development sessions to occur, identifying needs across the district and deploying the Partnership Plus developer in order to address those needs. We are looking to stay focused on just purely mathematics instruction and mathematical learning through this partnership. That's crucial to us. And as a district, if we were to engage in this program, we would go ahead and develop a learning agreement through SAVIS for the Partnership Plus. So we've identified different priorities that the district has relative to any professional development or professional coaching model. We'd like to build conceptual understanding in mathematics through Partnership Plus, apply new mathematical learning, and promote personalized learning or differentiated instruction. And that kind of speaks to some of the concerns that I expressed before, right? Our former experience with Math in Focus is that it was not one size fits all for our students, and we recognize absolutely the need to provide different types of learning experiences for our children. We're confident that this professional development model will allow our teachers to really tailor their instruction to meet our students' needs. In addition, a big part of the success of a curricular rollout is the full involvement. I mentioned the community before, but the Partnership Plus developer would work with all of our administrators, all of our elementary administrators across the district in talking about how they can best support mathematics in their buildings, right? So it's boots on the ground on a daily basis, and we have an opportunity to build the capacity not only of our children, but of our teachers as well as our administrators through this particular program and through this professional developer. That encapsulates our journey, year-and-a-half-long journey through the process of identifying our needs, taking a look at what's out there, trying different programs on as a district, and then, kind of reaching a conclusion in terms of what would best support our students' needs in the classroom. And so I also open the floor to any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Now, there were other districts that did implement Envision, correct? And I did notice that there were 2 districts that, and I just wanted clarification, did all of these districts that implemented Envision, did they also implement the Partnership Plus program?
The only 2 local districts that have implemented or plan to implement Partnership Plus are Patchogue Medford, and it's escaping me right now. I have to look back into my notes. I believe that Patchogue Medford is planning to spend their COVID relief grants in the same way to have that 12-month partnership. William Floyd was the other district, just came back to me.
Okay, now, as far as, so they do not have it, but are they both going to develop a Partnership Plus, or just right now just PatMed? Because I'm curious how they've how they've implemented Envision without having the Partnership Plus program, if they've had success with it.
So the other districts, I can't speak to the professional development models that they used, whether they went in a different direction, whether they developed their own particular plans. This is one mode of accepting professional development from the company and for providing it. We feel that this, again, most closely addresses our needs. In terms of one of those 2 districts, William Floyd, has done this work already. And Mrs. Berger was reaching out to the mathematics director there to see how their developer was scheduled into the district, what types of communications they issued to the community, and really how they maximize their use of their professional developers. Of course, we have a lot of ideas in terms of how we could maximize the use of the developer in-house, but there was a reference point there.
Another question I have is, our teachers had it until January of last year, so they continue to envision through the remainder of the year. Did they feel success of being able to use it without the professional developer? Because that only lasted until January. So how were they able to continue to use it without having that individual there? Can you feedback on that?
I sure can. So the pilot agreements with these companies were active through January, but I believe that the teachers made some contacts within their professional supporters who they met through their piloting experience, and I believe that they continued to reach out through Mrs. Berger if they had additional questions or concerns.
The other thing that I wanted to, that I just wanted to bring up were just to really clarify a little bit more about my concerns with it. And I wanted, I did some research, which is what I tend to do. And the things that I did discover is that there is an organization called Rivet Education, which I only learned about through this. And it's an organization that partners with state and local education agencies to deploy strategies that increase the number of educators with access to high-quality curriculum and professional learning. Nothing wrong there, of course not. They do happen to have a professional learning center partner guide, which is a free list of organizations that provide the best curriculum-based professional learning services in the country, and Savvis is one of them on there. So when I looked into it, on this professional learning partner guide, Savvis states how they will address equity. And if I can just read this for a moment, this is right on their website. Applying the culturally responsive instructional practices leveraged by our award-winning K-12 curriculum, we design our professional learning to help educators enhance information processing, center identity and diversity, value student voices, propel a culture of equity, foster anti-bias thinking and behavior, and facilitate student agency. We use resources from pedagogical content area thought leaders, such as Robert Berry and Dr. Ernest Morel, to guide our work with instructional practices that promote equity. We weave these authors' practices into professional learning tasks so that educators experience the same culturally and linguistically affirming environment that we want them to create for their students. So I looked into these people, particularly Robert Berry, because they state that they weave these authors' practices into how they do their professional development. Turns out he's the Dean of College Education at the University of Arizona, which focuses on equity issues in mathematics education. A little further, I looked into one of his books, States High School, however, the title is High School Mathematics Lessons to Explore, Understand, and Respond to Social Injustice. And it promotes this movement that they call Teaching Mathematics for Social Justice. And it's a movement to provide students with the opportunity to use mathematics to critique the world and advocate for social changes. Now, we all say, and I get it, what on earth does math have to do with any of this? They actually, a description of the book recognizes that and states, when people think of social justice, mathematics is rarely the first thing that comes to mind. But in the book, through model lessons developed by over 30 diverse contributors, this book brings seemingly abstract high school mathematics content to life by connecting it to the issues students see and want to change in the world. Some reviews of the book, one of them states that the book includes lessons and prepares you to teach a social justice mathematics lesson. That was a positive, somebody that thought it was great. Somebody else that wasn't so thrilled with it said, I can appreciate the social justice aspect of the book, but it's supposed to teach math skills. That's one person, and I do want to bring up one other person. Something else that I found on the Savvis website, right in there, they have a webinars for educators section in their resources right on there. And there was a webinar on culturally responsive learning and teaching. There are a million names for this. And in a training to culturally responsive instruction in 2020, they announced a 5-member board that are helping them at Savvis to influence the topic of professional development. One of these members is Gloria Ladson Billings, and I really urge anyone to research this individual. But even without researching, right from the Savvis website, a little blurb underneath her photo, right on the webinar feed. She is a professor emerita at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She is the original author on culturally responsive education and currently writes about culturally relevant pedagogy and critical race theory. So this is my concern, and I think I can actually echo the feelings of just about anybody in the community on all sides of these issues. Nobody wants outside influence in our school. We want to keep things within Connecticut, but it's tailored to Connecticut. And you hear from all different areas. We don't want that idea in our school, that idea. And really the only way to keep it out is to keep it out, not have these people come into it. And I'm not saying anything about the person who would be coming here, but if they're from Savvis and they're supposed to be doing professional development with these authors and these individuals' ideas weaved into their tactics to help our own teachers, isn't that outside influence? So that's my concern. With all of this, it's the math itself. The books are all math. It's the professional development teaching. That's where my concerns lie. So I need reassurance. Should this go through? And I know you said it, but when I make my kids nuts when I repeat myself by the time I'm saying I want to make sure we stick to math. That this professional development, they are not trying to train our teachers to view their students through a lens that's based on identity. Rather, they need to look at our students' individual needs and tailor their learning to what the student needs academically is really a focus here. That's how I learn. So I need that reassurance that it's going to stay math. Thank you.
I have a question. So, from the minute I've gotten on the board, I made it very clear that if something had critical race theory attached, I would 100% vote it down. I have a lot of respect for you, Mrs. Poppy, and for our math director as well, and I appreciate it. But the more that Jackie gives information and shows me research that I've asked her to see, and the more that I delve deep into it, the more that I am concerned. I'm concerned because we have board members who for years said they are for DEI and then flipped back and forth. I don't flip. I've said what I'm against it. I will always be against it. I'm not against diversity, equity, and inclusion as singular words because they are all important. I am against the curriculum. And I'd like to know why parents and board members weren't part of this literacy and math committee, because we've been part of many other curriculum committees, and this one seems to have now some issues with CRT is attached to it. Regardless what we all want to say, their piece is there. She can easily link it and show us. I understand that you guys said you will not use that, but we are not in classrooms every day. We do not know, once we, muscle memory, the same way that when you're trained to do something through an outside agency, you may just do it that way because it seems right. DEI comes into all different forms, as we've seen. It's even on the NYSSMA sites. People have said it's not, people have said they know this and that, and then you were able to show board members last year so that it is there. We may not be utilizing it or so we think, but like I said, a high school classroom for the literacy classroom was financial literacy, I think it was. I could be wrong. That had a direct link to anti-police, had a direct link to CRT, had a direct link to DEI. People said, no. I brought it into the then superintendent's office, and she said, oh my God, this is.
If I can just offer a response, because part of what you just raised, Ms. Napolitano, was regarding this committee. So I should be clear, I do have the curriculum committee that is a Board of Education committee. But internally, because we're so large, we've identified the need to establish internal committees. So the internal committee that I'm speaking about involves just teachers. So we have teacher representatives from the primary level, from every building, and they meet as a committee to talk about curricular concerns that they have in mathematics and ELA. And we have one that is comprised of teacher representatives from every building at the intermediate level, so it's 3 through 5, because each one of those bands has unique needs and differences. So across this school year and back in 21 to 22, we've engendered discussions that are relative to our curriculum in literacy, so our approach to reading and writing instruction. We've looked at the professional development that we've been provided through that lens. We've identified gaps and talked about how universally we can fill them as a district to kind of smooth out an experience for students across the school district. We've talked about best practices. It's typically a very healthy conversations that is facilitated by Mrs. Berger, by our director of ELA, as well as our administrator for instruction data and assessment. So the three of them work collaboratively in order to facilitate those committee meetings. There was parent input that was collected for both pilots, and I neglected to mention that. I believe it was in the presentation somewhere, but I didn't verbalize it. So the piloting teachers did poll their students' parents and guardians to see about the presentation of mathematics, the students' feelings toward mathematics, the ease of providing assistance to students at home, and so on and so forth. So there are sort of two different pieces here.
Well, I'm only saying this because we say that we don't have a lot of these issues, but again, I asked about a few schools that I'm interested in. I know that we have some board members who then stated in emails that they want ConnectWatt to just be ConnectWatt. But here's the thing. We are challenged across Long Island with what other schools are doing. That's how these programs come in. We're statistically looking at what other schools are doing. So we are not just staying ConnectBot, that's why we have to look into these other programs in these other schools. In doing so, I looked at the top schools. Looking at schools such as Jericho, for instance. They're using Math in Focus, and they're not switching right now. Then we have Locust Valley. They have Go Math. We have Massapequa, one of my favorites. iReady Math. We have Syosset, Go Math, and exploring new programs this year. That's what you guys have sent to us, which I appreciate. Jericho has been the top school, and it has our math program that we have now. I understand that the math program may not be working here, and I looked through the Envision books, and I found that they were not anything to be worrisome about, but again, they're just textbooks. And I just feel like I could be a yes for a textbook that you tell me you guys are going to lead. I cannot be a yes for professional development that has any kind of social justice involved in it. This comes to what I was going to walk on, which was we have an issue across the district. I have parents now reaching out, more than one. We got an email from one about, it's even now in kindergarten. In kindergarten, we are worried about crayon colors. This is what we're dealing with in ConnectBot. That we are asking for crayon colors to change skin colors of children in whatever pictures. And I have a real issue with some of the things that are done in one school are not done in another, as you had mentioned, and I was wrong, because I believe there was equity across district, and then when I went looking at lists. So when people say to me, math isn't going to bring social justice, we have crayon issues that are bringing social justice in. We have some issues here that need to be addressed, and while some people don't want to address them, I'm going to address them. So again, I have a problem with anything that is going to bring this on the forefront, possibly. I know, again, we have board members who will say what anyone wants to hear, because depending who they're speaking to, and that will never be me. I appreciate Jackie very much doing the research that she does, and not just rubber stamping things. So again, I'm not sold on the professional development. Again, have the highest respect for you and for Mrs. Berger and the amazing job the two of you do. It's incredible. I would love if you two, like I had asked for last year and it was done in the PPS, now mental health, I had asked for the SEL to be broken down into, for the same exact reason, into a program that was ConnectBot. And that's what I would like to see with this as well. I understand it's an undertaking, but I cannot get behind something that has social justice in it like that, because the quality control is not as easy as we tend to like to think it is.
So another question that I have with regards to this, because I know that the contract is only for a year, to train the teachers, so all of the elementary teachers. So what happens with new teachers that come in that have to learn it? They're going to have to be taught, I'm assuming, by our head of the department. They'll have to be trained in all that professional development. So if that's the case, and I do, I have great respect for her and her abilities as a math teacher and her abilities to do this. Why is it that we can't work with each other? We've already had, I think it was 14 teachers so far that have experience using Envision with the professional development they already got it. Why is it that there can't be collaboration between the teachers and with even just the math department to help to train our teachers rather than going to someone else to have somebody there all year long? Because I'm only there for a year anyway. What happens if we get 10 new teachers? We can't have them back at that point.
So I have a two-part response to this, and Jackie Napolitano, I think maybe I can wrap in some comments toward your points earlier. So I spoke earlier about the opportunity to have Mrs. Berger as a gatekeeper, so to speak, who is monitoring the development that is delivered topically, conceptually, and I know that she can't be in every classroom every single day, she's one woman. However, she would be overseeing the implementer, the professional developer, as they conducted their duties throughout the district. The contract itself contains a clause about the cooperation of the developer with the district's vision and the district's mission, and so there is that consideration to keep in mind as well, that we have an opportunity if things are not going the way that we plan for them to go, that we could remove ourselves from the partnership. I'm going to argue, and I shouldn't say argue because I'm not arguing, just stating that all of our elementary teachers are generalists, right? So we don't have an elementary mathematics department, right? So they truly deserve the opportunity to receive a dedicated professional development that is not delivered by a colleague, who they teach next door to. They're all uncovering something brand new together. And while there is something really strong to be said for collaboration in that vein, and it's a necessary part of professional development, in my opinion, there needs to be leadership in terms of the development. If we're looking at Mrs. Berger as that leader, that's a consideration as well. I will make the argument that programmatically, Envision has a specific instructional approach, just like our literacy has a specific instructional approach. And when we onboarded Teachers College Reading and Writing Project, we brought all the way into the professional development there. And, we've made changes over the course of 7 or 8 years in terms of how we deliver professional development, because we've noticed what our students' needs are and what our teachers' needs are, and we've pivoted 3 different times in terms of how we deliver professional development for literacy instruction. So my statement here is that this is a 12-month contract, and we receive the development so long as it is to our standard, so long as it aligns with the professional learning goals that we've outlined with the company, so long as the oversight by Mrs. Berger is not providing any feedback that is anything but 100% satisfaction. And then next year, we think about, and that's on my shoulders and Mrs. Berger's shoulders, in terms of how we continue to support mathematics through another professional development model. This is a 1-year only commitment. I wouldn't come back to the board or come back to Mr. Hauser and ask for this amount of monies to be considered in our general budget or through our grants to continue this model. This is immersive. It's inclusive of everybody, and I think that's important to understand as well. All of our special education classrooms and all of our general education classrooms would receive the services of this developer. And frankly, to have teachers do the work, while I have the utmost esteem for them, and I think all of you know that, I can't see them in the balance of their day learning how to deliver PD to one another for a new program. I just don't think it's fair. And I'm concerned that other things would lose their priority status instructionally with the teachers if that's what we expected of them in year 1 with a brand new mathematics program, honestly.
That's why, like I said, you have Jericho has our program right now. Is there a reason why we didn't look at one of the other ones that the other schools are using? I know you said, which one was it that they went up against? Go Math? Was that for the iReady? Okay, so iReady is what Massapequa uses, and that's the one that 6 teachers like.
Correct.
So there's 25 teachers that were part of this, or how many were?
33 total.
33. And how many teachers are going to be using this program across district?
All of the elementary teachers would be using this. So we piloted in 4 buildings, 2 North End buildings and 2 South End buildings. And we had our collection of 33 teachers representing those buildings. We also had the input of our mathematics specialists in addition.
So Go Math was never looked into?
No, the committee, I think in the spring of 2022, the committee identified 4 math programs that they would like to look at, and they whittled those programs down. You know, they shopped, they looked at them, they looked at the features of those programs, and they whittled those programs down to Envision and iReady, thinking that those 2 would best meet their instructional needs. I will say, you know, and I'm a firm believer in this as well, and I think we've had this discussion somewhere along the line, but if there were a curriculum out there, a program, an approach that guaranteed every district the best results, right? That was affordable for every district and met the needs of every single child and every single teacher, every district would bend over backwards to make that purchase. But in that small 4-school sample, you can see it's not every program meets the needs of every school district. If you or I were to invent that one curriculum, we would be millionaires. I mean, we would have our own private island somewhere in the Caribbean because every school would be wanting it. The piece of it is that, you know, I think to make an informed decision about this, our teachers really looked at and tried on the programs with our students. And so, you know, they found Envision met their needs, the best addressed their needs. And so, you know, we can talk about, you know, that program that high-performing district uses. And it's because it works for that particular student population, it works for that particular community, however it was rolled out. And I don't have those pieces or that back knowledge for those districts to know that information was successful for that particular group. And I'm suggesting that the teachers and Mrs. Berger have seen Envision to have that type of an effect in Connecticut.
I understand that, but I also understand that 2 years ago, this district spoke very clearly on what they thought of social justice in school districts, especially in Connecticut. So they came out and they made that choice of which side they wanted in our school district, and it wasn't going to be social justice and CRT, DEI, or any of the likes. So again, I have to, every time I think about it, I said it to Jackie, I have to do it what I was put here to do, which is to say I cannot say yes to a professional development that clearly on its website shows the link to social justice. Clearly. If it has the clear link, I can't say yes because I'm not sold on that. It's not going to rear its ugly head. It's reared it before here.
So these conversations are some of the most important conversations that we can have. We're talking ultimately about student learning, which is the bread and butter focus of the school district. So I appreciate the fact that in any community, the needs of our kids are going to evolve, and we certainly have seen that, especially the last several years, and Connecticut is no different from any other district. So, you know, a comprehensive approach to this periodical review of how we're meeting the needs of our kids is critical, and certainly, and the sentiments were shared, and I'll echo them. You know, the care that Ms. Poppy, Ms. Berger, our teachers gave over the year and a half is greatly appreciated. I also appreciate the concern, and this is pervasive across our nation in terms of how our public schools are caught in the middle of a polarized and politicized tug of war. It's very unfortunate. Our administrators, our teachers, our support staff, boards of education are certainly caught in the middle of this. And I think it's important for everyone in our learning community, our Connecticut family, to understand where I'm coming from as your superintendent of schools. I want to meet the needs of our children. I want to support our staff the way they need to be supported. I want to support our parents and our community the way our ConnectQuad parents community need to be supported. And I want us to drive that middle lane. That middle lane means we keep out the polarization and the politics, all of it, north, south, east, and west, and we stay in that middle lane. So to that end, anybody we bring in, any program we bring in, I've heard terms like cookie cutter, never works, can't be cookie cutter. Tailored is critical. Alignment to standards, alignment to our needs is critical. So any program or partner we bring in, any professional developer, they're going to do it our way. That is the expectation. And while there is, for your consideration, a one-year contract with a professional developer, there's also a very important clause in that contract that basically says we can pull the plug with 30 days notice. And we can, that's in terms of the economics behind it, but we could pull the plug within a second. If anyone is going to make a left at Albuquerque and not just focus on the math, we're talking math, if it was another content area, then we have that control. And it's not always easy to guarantee the quality control. I get it 100%. Do I have faith in Ms. Poppy, Ms. Berger, our administrators, to ensure that the focus is where it needs to be? I do have that faith, but I appreciate these concerns, and it doesn't matter where the polarization or the political concerns are coming from. And again, I'm going to focus that middle lane. We have to take a comprehensive look at right now. The focus is there across the curriculum to make sure that we are meeting needs. We're still coming out of that post-pandemic, learning gaps that we're trying to address. But again, this theme of making sure that we evolve with the needs of our students, while making sure that ConnectQuad is in the driver's seat and not some outside company, not some outside professional developer. There is a balance that can be struck, and again, it follows that theme of focus in that middle lane.
Dr. Sensimore, but if that's the truth about ConnectQuad, then every school district should do the same thing. When we're dealing with emails, we get an email that says that one of our schools is using a social justice kind of method in buying crayons. That's happening. That's in one of our schools. In one school in our district, we got an email. I'm not going to hide because I've had enough of the social justice that's hiding in areas and people see it and know it, and then they come to me, and I always get the call because people know that I'm going to bring it to the forefront. It is inappropriate for us to be asking parents in that area as well. The same way I would never think that in a kindergarten class I got to worry about social justice being taught to a kid through the colors of crayons. But that's where we're at. So when I hear that, it makes me wonder, what does a math program that's directly linked to it, what is that one going to do?
Is it social justice that's being taught, or is it just a child who wants to represent himself with the color of the crayon?
Well, I don't know, is it in every school, Brian, or is it only in one?
That I don't know. I'm talking.
Well, I know you wanted to hide it. I know you guys don't want to talk about it.
I'm not trying to hide anything.
Well, it sounds like
Well, it was an email that went to the board that was executive content, so if you want
It's not executive content. I just spoke to the parent. It's not executive
I have
content.
a teacher friend who works in Brentwood, and they have...
Oh, by the way, you may need to go to some extra training because you don't know what executive content is. Dr. Sentimore, was that email executive content stating about a crayon on a list for a kindergarten class that no other school has? Or is that just an email of a complaint to the school board? You might want to let them know.
I misspoke.
So
You mistake all the time.
So there's certainly an inquiry, and there's no hiding from this conversation. I think any time that, as a school district, we're asking families, parents to purchase things out of pocket, I think it's very important that we look at that consistency. Now, I also think it's important to understand intent, and whether or not the intent is mission creep with some other agendas, or whether or not the intent is we do have diversity in Connecticut, and this is an opportunity for students for self-identification and expression. But I think that theme of asking parents to spend their own money, it's an important theme, to look at. And then what becomes something that we're kind of stating is a mandatory purchase by a family, as opposed to recommended, suggested, optional. And one of the things that we could just simply provide, through purchase materials that are not connected to anything of controversy, but certainly, can help kids with their own self-identification and expression without, again, that expression making a left at our curve.
I don't think that the issue is, if we want to have extra color crayons in every single kindergarten class, God bless. As long as the Connecticut's paying for them. I agree that parents should not have to buy, especially when some parents are against it, some parents may be for it. It's, again, one of those middle of the road. I think the issue that I have is when a parent reaches out a couple of times, and they're not wrong in saying, nobody knew that there was one list different than all the other kindergarten school lists. Nobody caught that but this person. And so my problem is, things are happening under our noses. I'm not blaming you, you're brand new here as well, but things have happened for years under our noses, and it does happen. And I'm just saying that now here we are with a direct link to it before we even start, makes me uncomfortable, as opposed to, and that's where I'm linking the kindergarten crayon. The kindergarten crayon, you want to buy every color of the rainbow, you want to buy every color of skin color, be my guest. But the point was, only one school did it. And so it should be, as you said, optional, and it should be that parents shouldn't have to purchase that. And it also should be equity across district, which is what I brought in 4 years ago at my first board meeting, when I sat here and said, equity across the district. Equity across the district in every way possible, especially elementary should be able to go. If you move tomorrow, you should be able to jump into another class in another school and be able to catch on real fast because you're right where you're supposed to be. That's what should be going on. If you're telling me one list is different than the other, we're not being diverse. We're not being inclusive, because we're only doing it in one kindergarten class in one school building. All I'm saying is, again, it's something that was, in my opinion, put in under the radar, and this is something that is Jackie's fear and my fear. And I 100% commend you for the outstanding research you've done, better than any board member I've ever been on the board with, the research that you do.
As far as it creeping in, I mean, she's 100% right. Because there are going to be instances when it's going to happen without and there isn't anything we can do about it. And I will bring up something that I brought up. I don't know exactly when. I've been coming to meetings for many years, but for a celebration for Martin Luther King Jr., there was an organization called Long Island Strong Schools Alliance. They endorsed one of our trustees this year. They had put up a post on their social media page tying, and I was not happy about it. They stated the school, the teacher's name. We can't even state that here at the board meeting. They had it on their social media, and they tied one of our celebrations, which we do that all the time, directly to DEI. That's what that organization is focused on. So there are going to be instances when it's going to happen, and it's out there, and that's something from the outside creeping in that we couldn't really control. We couldn't do anything about it. Our pictures are on the website. They took it from our website, so there was nothing we could do at that point, was my understanding. But in a situation where here we have a contract meant to be signed by us as a board, and that to actually invite them in it is a place where we can have that kind of quality control. So that's just another piece of this that we should be aware of, that it's coming at us from all sides. It's outside infiltration. We want to keep it to Connecticut and keep it academic and educational for all of our students.
I appreciate all the points and concerns expressed, and Mr. Napolitano, I appreciate the honeymoon period that you're offering me. I think that ended on July 2nd. Maybe it lasted 24 hours, so, you know, I embrace the accountability that comes with this position, including whatever history prior to July 1. You know, this is an incredible community and an outstanding school district, and I think it's actually awesome that we could have this kind of a conversation and dialogue, and there are different viewpoints being expressed, but I think these are healthy conversations, because at the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing. We all want the best possible programs for our students that are going to address their specific needs, their Connect-Wide needs, certainly how we support our staff, how we support our parents, and how we support our community.
Does anybody have any more comments, questions? Did you guys want to poll 3 for a separate vote then? I mean 2? All right, can I get a motion?
I want to pull them all for a separate vote. 2, 3, and 4 should be a separate vote.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, isn't that how it is?
They're not separate. It's a consent agenda vote.
And all 3 should be roll call vote.
Okay, sure. Can I have a motion to approve item 2?
Well, are we speaking about number 4 yet, or we're not, we're waiting on that?
If you want to, if you have any questions on any other consent agenda items.
If I can just suggest, if you're pulling, you pull them all for a separate vote, so if you want to speak about one independently, I would wait until you get to that agenda item, so you can get through the agenda cohesively, more efficiently.
Sounds good.
I do have one more question, I'm sorry, if I can, just about this. Is it possible to have this curriculum, the textbooks, and not, like, have the professional development? Is this something that if the professional development is not there, the whole curriculum goes out the window?
So it does represent a new approach, right? A new instructional approach in the classroom. I think that for anything to be successful, that we have to be able to support the teachers who are implementing it. In terms of who provides the support, traditionally, we will look at a product, and the company that's offering the product is the developer who we use. Off the top of my head, I can't think about an independent contractor through, let's say, the BOCES, who would be able to provide the type of support and have the in-depth knowledge of the product that is really required. And so right now I'm at a loss in terms of the who it would provide the professional support, if not CEPAS.
Anything else? You good? All right. Can I have a motion to approve item 2 of the consent agenda?
Motion.
Okay. Jackie?
I'm a no.
April?
Yes.
Jackie?
So I'm having trouble with this. You know, this has been my whole thing, to make sure that this outside influence does not come in. I'm gonna put my faith in administrators and that clause. If anything comes in, anything, and you've known me for many years, I used to be over there calling out everything, and I'm gonna put my faith in them and to make sure that this stays out. We keep it Connect-Wide, math is math. I'm gonna be a yes.
I am a yes. Brian?
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Sure.
So, Ms. Poppy, I think it's important in terms of this theme of quality control that I also get to meet with this professional developer before they start. And I'll be very nice and milk and cookies, but I'm going to be crystal clear in my expectations that we're going to do math.
Absolutely,
Or the plug will get pulled, and I'll pull it.
absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions about the textbook? Can I have a motion to approve item 3 of the consent agenda?
Motion.
I'll second. Jackie?
I'm a yes for the textbook.
April?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
I am also yes. Brian?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Any questions on consent agenda item number 4, the food service bid?
Yes. I wanted to know what exactly, I wanted to give transparency to the community to let them know what exactly happened.
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Bob.
Sure. Jackie, just to clarify, are you asking the bid rejection in
Yes.
particular?
Yes, please.
Okay, so every 5 years, we're required by the State Office of Child Nutrition to go out to bid for a food service management company. The school year that just ended was the last of the 5 years. So we had to wait for the Office of Child Nutrition to come out with an approved template, a bid specifications template. It's about 78 pages in depth. Once that template came out, it was up to us to fill in some of the blanks in terms of insurance, for example, some minimum, maximum coverages, dates that our facilities would be available, dates that we would be available to answer questions for the prospective management companies, and so on and so forth. So once we completed the bid specification package, which was actually done after we had 2 district-wide, I'll say, nutrition committee meetings. 2 board members were on, I think Marisol, you were one, and Mylan, former board member, was on, was the other person. Once we came up with the idea of how we wanted to draft those specs, we actually went out for a formal legal bid process. We advertised in Newsday, and then we set an actual bid date, and then we received at that time 2 bids, one from a company by the name of Aramark, and the other from a company by the name of Whitson's, which is nutrition, which was our current food management company for the prior school year. When we reviewed both of the bids we received, and we also communicated with each of those 2 vendors, there were questions that the vendors had. One vendor in particular, Aramark, questioned a date that was in the specifications, which was a date for the vendor to ask questions that was after the published date of the opening. In that one particular case, we consulted with counsel, and our counsel advised, with that specification alone not being correct, that we should go out for a rebid there. The other question that the vendor, Aramark, brought up was they didn't have sufficient time to actually inspect each of our 10 cafeterias, which they felt would have been important had they had time and been able to submit a different bid. So like I said, we consulted with counsel. Counsel advised us to go out for rebid, which we did. So upon the second bid, we received the same 2 companies' bid, and that brings us to where we are right now, which is we must, through a process here, we must first reject those first bids before we can proceed to the next step, which would be awarding the second bids that we received.
Thank you.
Well,
Anybody else? No? Can I have a motion to approve item 4, food service bid, from the consent agenda?
Motion.
I'll second. Jackie, how do you vote?
Yes.
April?
I just want to be clear, we're rejecting it.
If you reject it, you vote yes.
Oh, yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Brian?
Oh, yes.
Okay, motion carries. Jackie, you said you wanted to vote something on, do you still?
Yes?
Okay, so can I have a motion to amend the agenda to allow for board discussion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
Jesse, I would like you to, did you send the link, or was the super gonna send the link for a law conference? I just went to the law conference with Dr. Sentimore. We spent the day at a law conference in Melville, very, very good information, learned a lot. It would behoove the whole board if maybe we could bring something like that in as a presentation to show them what exactly is executive content, what exactly you're allowed to put on social media, what exactly, because I don't think people realize that when you're not sitting as a board member, you still have your First Amendment rights. I also want people to see what exactly, obviously, as Brian showcased tonight, people don't know what is executive content. And emails are not executive content if they are giving us a complaint that they need us to bring forward and are requesting us to bring forward. Also, there are legal bills on the table and on the floor of the government that we're going to be, that they're going to end up being an issue possibly for different districts. So I really think it would behoove us to bring that in, even if it was for I'm not for doing a, what is it called there? A retreat, because we did a retreat and it got us nowhere. So it was, we wasted taxpayer money. We absolutely wasted taxpayer money the last 5 and the 5 before that, and the last 3 retreats have been wasted money on the district. And I'm not going to waste taxpayer money. So, I mean, that's just mine, I'm a no. But I am for giving information or having all board members go to these conferences because they are the way that you learn. If you don't go, you won't learn. And since the board is extremely new, we have 2 brand new members, 2 with 2 years on, it's not exactly a board that has a lot of experience and certainly not a lot of knowledge. So it would behoove people to try to get to some of these conferences, or if, like I said, Jesse can bring that stuff in, because it was even just portrayed tonight where we need to know what is executive content and what is not.
Dr. Sentimore did share that with the board on Friday.
Right, the link. But what I'm saying is, I think he had also stated that the link is only going to be good for a certain amount of time.
We're not sure how long the link will be live. That's why if anybody wants a hard copy binder made, Jesse can do that for you. I understand your point, though, about you're really looking at professional development for board members.
100%.
And I know that,
100%.
one of the things that's a shame, and it's, I'll put a critique out to the universe, is that new board member training, and I guess it has to do with summer schedules, it doesn't tend to be set up until September, end of September, or something like that.
I think this
Yeah.
year is the end of September or the beginning of
Okay.
October.
Listen, there's no shame in going a second time. I went 2 years in a row, because you're allowed to go. It's actually cheaper if you're not a new board member, isn't it, or it's the same? Is it the same?
It's the same price.
Okay. And it's definitely worth it because it reaffirms, and again, like the muscle memory, it tells you this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not allowed to do. We have too many people who have been on the board for a few years and haven't gone to any of this kind of training, and the virtual is you don't learn as much. And like I said, in regards to emails, for instance, I think a lot of people don't understand that our emails are technically, and I'm part of it, are illegal board meetings. You have 5 people on an email and don't understand that you're not supposed to be talking about everything that's not done in public. That's what transparency is. And I've been on the board with too many people who don't want to give transparency. This year we're going to give transparency one way or another. So again, I would like to make sure that everyone knows what is exactly allowed to be emailed, what is not supposed to be emailed. I don't know if we need a board vote for that, because I really wanted something. I had called Jesse a few days ago, or last week, and asked about if there was something legal put together last year. I thought there was, but I was wrong. And I really think it would behoove us for that too, even if it costs something for us to have legal, let us know. And if that needs to be voted on, let it be voted on at the next board meeting. We definitely need to know, especially new board members and even old board members that don't know. They need to know what is allowed to be in an email, what can be discussed in an email or text with 5 board members. If there's something that happens at the schools, of course, you reach out to us right away. That's understandable, it's an emergency. Something of asking questions, let's for instance say, like this stuff tonight, this, Jackie caught it, and thank you for that 5 board members sitting around a table to learn about curriculum is technically a public board meeting. Technically it is. We can call it a workshop, but the reality is, to give transparency means that when all 5 of us are together, it's a board meeting, and we should try to, unless we're walking around a school looking at something that's different. But just so that we, this year especially, we give transparency.
But I actually think that that's a great idea to bring in that meal program. I know I, for one, wanted to go. I just couldn't go because I had to work that day. All of us can just take off from work whenever. I've taken off from work for board duties. I just can't do it all the time. I've gone to evening trainings as much as I can. But to bring it in, if we could bring it in, that would be great if we could do it here.
I would recommend, I mean, the last 2 years I took vacation days to go, it's one day, and it's definitely something that not only helps you, but you have to try to help lead the people who don't know what they're doing. And in order to do that, you have to know what you're doing.
I don't disagree.
So it's definitely in the future if you work the vacation day.
I will absolutely look into it, and I just want to let you guys know, you may see it as a board retreat expense, because that just might be how NISBA codes it, like that, like how we get it done. So just if you see it, don't automatically push back.
She may change her mind about board retreats.
No. Last year was a joke. We literally walked out of the board meeting, and within a half an hour, and I know Marisol can attest to this, I was already getting hate emails from one of the board members. So I'm not going to the retreat, and then and less than an hour later, getting emails and actually writing back, hey, you know, didn't we just go to a retreat? We all agreed that we were going to try to work as a team. We're not technically supposed to be working as a team per se. You're an elected official who is elected because of what you bring to the table. You're supposed to be speaking for the people. That's really what it is. We're not supposed to be, I'm not supposed to just go around rubber stamping whatever the other board members want. That's not how it works. That's why I'll stand for one any day, as long as what I'm doing is what I believe the people put me here to do.
Thank you, Jackie. Does anybody else have anything that they want to discuss? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn the July 25th Board of Education meeting?
Motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody, and good night.